Good morning and welcome to Junior Church. Today our lesson is about the road to Emmaus. Now the story of Easter Day continues with the encounter on the road to Emmaus. Emmaus is a village about 7 miles from Jerusalem. If you look at the map over there, you will see Jerusalem, which is right about here. And here is Emmaus. So now you know it's walking distance. Remember I told you that they walked everywhere in Jesus' time. They didn't have cars, trains, or planes. They walked. So, on the day the empty tomb was discovered, 2 disciples are walking to Emmaus. Now these disciples are not the remaining 11 disciples. We know this because one of them was named Emmaus. Well, sorry about that. It's not. It was Cleopas. And later they tell the 11 disciples about what happened. Now these 2 men are joined by Jesus on their walk, but they are prevented from recognizing Jesus. They tell Jesus all about what happened. And Jesus tells them they are foolish to be surprised by this because the prophets declared that all of this would happen. Remember, from the very beginning they said this was going to happen. And that is why Jesus had to suffer on the cross, because the prophets prophesied that this was going to happen. Now when they get to the village of Emmaus, Jesus acts as if he's going on ahead. But the 2 men ask Jesus to have a meal with them. And when they sit down to eat, Jesus takes the bread, he breaks it, he blesses it, and he gives it to them. And when Jesus does this, they recognize that it is Jesus because of this action. The breaking of the bread helps them to remember that this is Jesus. Now I'm sure there are some things you can associate with a certain person. Maybe your uncle always takes his shoes off and places them a certain way when he comes into the house. If you saw someone do this, it would remind you of your uncle. Or maybe your grandma always gives you a big hug and pats you on the back when she sees you. So when you get a big hug and somebody pats you on the back, it reminds you of your grandma. See, there are certain things that people do, they remind you of things. And this is the same about Christians. The actions they take are how other people will remember Jesus. Let's celebrate Jesus by living as Jesus would have us to live. We remember Jesus when we think of the things he did. You will be remembered for the way you live your life and the things you do. So now let us say our prayer. Dear God, thank you for sending Jesus so that we can follow his teachings. Help us to be good examples so that others can know who Jesus is through us. Amen. Now if you had been in class, I would have given you a paper that looked like this, and you could have drawn Jesus and the 2 men walking on the road to Emmaus. And this mayhap would remind you about the disciples and Jesus and what he did and what happened. So I wish all of you a happy Easter, and I'll see you next Sunday for Junior Church.